This is my debut of a presentation that I'm going to be doing in the future that has to do with effective leadership. And I'm portraying the part of a medical doctor because, as you know, that is a prestigious profession, being a doctor. And a doctor has to have effective leadership styles to be able to run a clinic, a ward, and what have you in the real world. So this is a presentation that I did back in 2000 with Dr. King. He was from Guyana, and he got his PhD in educational testing. There's an area in education called psychological testing or psychometrics, the measurement of testing, IQs, how do children learn, how do adults learn. So that's what he got his PhD in. And he was the campus director for about 6 years. So because he was an authority in this field, he and I did this presentation. So I just resurrected it because I still had the script that we used together to put it together. And I was able to put this PowerPoint presentation together because I couldn't find the old file going that far back. Because you know, PowerPoint has gone through developments over the years. So I'm going to move forward. All right. So basically the title that we're looking at here is Developing Resiliency Through the Exploration of Educational Leadership Styles. Effective Educational Leadership for the 21st Century. And when we did this presentation, we just entered the 21st century. Okay. So here we are. First impressions are lasting impressions. Now, most of us here are communication majors, right? We've heard that before. Okay. Leadership style evoked the curiosity of scholars and philosophers since the golden age of the Greek philosophers. It was 400 years before the birth of Christ. Plato examined leadership characteristics in people in his day and founded the academy. What happened?
Can't catch the writing, it's blurry.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm going to look at your certs. Yeah. Plato was a student of Socrates. Okay? And we're looking at Greek leadership, Greek civilization. So he examined leadership characteristics in people in his day and founded the academy. Claimed to be the first university in the Western world dedicated to training philosopher kings. Right? I'm not going to get into different belief systems, but if you come from Africa, you got the University of Timbuktu, who Tala knows about, from Senegal, who was in Africa, one of the greatest learning institutions of the ancient time. Whether the Greeks got their knowledge from them needs to be researched, all right? But we do live in the Western, so-called Western world, so we're going by this model. And I know that many of you have taken ELI and run across these philosophers before, right? Philosopher kings. But then a young lady here in this class will say, well, what happened to the philosopher queens? In a matriarchal society. We all know matriarch means the women. Women run things. If you look at a herd of elephants, the female of the tribe are the ones who nurse the baby elephant. Are we aware of that? That's called a matriarchal society. Maybe we got so much tension in the world right now because it's too male dominated, right? So we need to include women in leadership positions as well, not just men. So Plato believed that leaders must be educated and that philosopher kings must be the embodiment of effective leadership. Can you be a leader without being educated?
Yeah.
But according to this, you should or must be educated, right? He's saying you must be educated. All right? This is just one belief system. And we all know the word education comes from educare, or educare. It's a Latin term which means to evoke, to bring out one's full potential from within. So you have intrinsic abilities to learn, to be educated, right? So educare means to bring that out. So good teachers bring out the best in you. Not for you to become copycats of other people, but for you to be yourself and to think creatively, all right? So this is Mother Irene Gill. She's one of the founders of the College of New Rochelle. Now, we just saw philosopher kings, but here's a philosopher queen, so to speak, a nun, right? Of the archdiocese. So what are the behavior patterns and interpersonal skills that predict successful leadership? A leader's character was referred to as soft skills. The available data suggests that it was through resilient leadership, that is, the resourcefulness to overcome adversity at all costs, that propelled CNR from a humble beginning of 12 students to 38,000 women after 100 years. Mother Gills exemplified resilient leadership and was able to surmount the profound challenges of a complete lack of funds and issues arising from the intrinsic nature of the learning environment. What's another word for resilient? What is resilient? Anybody?
To fight against, to fight.
Resilient.
Resist?
No. When you're resilient, you're
Being stubborn.
You can handle anything.
not even stubborn, exactly.
You can handle it.
Not even that. You handle anything. You're flexible. You know, I'm caught up in a certain situation, so I have to use a certain leadership style to because a certain group of people is different than another group of people. So I got to adapt to my environment, to my surroundings, and display a different leadership tactic at that time. That's what resilient means, to be flexible, right? Resilient. Okay, we move on. Goldman, who conducted these studies in 2000, declared that a common quality among the most effective leaders has been identified as emotional intelligence, also known as EI. Now in computers you have artificial intelligence, that's AI, that's something else, that's machine intelligence. This is emotional. And that is the ability to manage ourselves and our relationships effectively. As a result, he pointed out that social skills, which are soft skills, are juxtaposed to cognitive skills as a catalyst for successful management and leadership in today's work environment. This explains the significant interest in emotional intelligence in current leadership literature and management circles. So this is in 2000. They're probably still doing research in this area. What skills do you need to become an effective leader within this field called emotional intelligence? The ability to manage ourselves and our relationship with others effectively. Emotional intelligence is based on 5 elements. Here's the first one. Self-awareness is knowing oneself, or the capability of making a realistic assessment of one's strengths and weaknesses, and the development of self-confidence based on self-worth. This is what I say. You have respect for yourself. Man, know thyself. To thy own self be true. Who's the one that said an unexamined life is not worth living? Was that Socrates? You've all heard that before, I'm sure you have. So examine your life. And to make an assessment of your strengths. Don't deceive yourself. Be true to yourself. What are your weaknesses? What do you need to work on? What are you good at? Stop finding faults in others. Find faults in yourself and try to eradicate those faults. And you have to develop confidence in yourself that leads to worthiness, that you're worth something. Who says I am somebody? Was that Martin Luther King? I am somebody. He was the most profound leaders of the civil rights era, right? Martin Luther King. Self-regulation is the innate ability to control one's emotions, one's impulses, and to consistently exhibit honesty and integrity. What does that say? Self-regulation. You're constantly, oh, you gotta jump tables, right? You gotta constantly regulate yourself. Control your emotions based on the circumstances. Be honest and have integrity in your life. That's one of the most important things that you can ask of someone, or do they have integrity? Are they honest? Are they trustworthy? Motivation denotes a strong drive to achieve beyond one's expectations or the expectation of others, and a leader's passion to achieve beyond money or status. Emotional intelligence is based on 5 elements. We just saw 3, right? This is the 4th one. Empathy identifies a leader's ability to understand the emotional makeup of other people and the ability to be objective in the decision-making process. We've heard of the word sympathy, feel sorry for someone. But what is empathy? You feel what someone else feels. It's made up of 2 words, right? Pathos. Pathy, pathos. You got the logos, the pathos, and then there's another one. In Greek, these are Greek words. So the pathos is the human condition. Pathos, all right? Pathological, these words stem from that root. Social skills sum up a leader's proficiency in managing relationships and building networks. It also refers to the leader's ability to find common ground and build rapport. All right, so we're just not making that up. That's from the Harvard Business Review, 1998. Is this true? A good leader is a good listener?
Yes.
Right?
That makes sense.
Give or take, right? Is it a good listener? How many ears do we have? I gotta get philosophical here. How many ears? 2, right? How many mouths? So you should listen twice as much, or see twice as much as you talk. You got that? So listening is I mean, you guys perhaps have taken Introduction to Communication, right? Where you cover the difference between hearing and listening. You could be hearing something over there, but you're not processing it, right? So it's just noise, right? The feedback you're getting is just noise because you're not listening, because you're not focused into that. So listening is a skill, and it takes effort to become a good listener. And a good leader should be able to listen, not just hear, and be empathic towards others. Successful leaders tend to have, I know I had to throw that in there. Successful leaders tend to have strengths that spread across these 5 competencies. Individuals are not known to be competent in all 5 elements of emotional intelligence. On the contrary, leaders tend to have limited strength in each competency. It's kind of hard to put it all together, right? So you're still developing as a leader, right? In your everyday experiences and the different situations that you find yourself, right? So the reason I put a picture up here with Darren Williams, the guard for the Brooklyn Nets, is because he's a leader on the floor, right? Some of you might say, well, is he really an effective leader? They're losing, just like the Knicks. But we're not going into that. And then maybe it's not him that they're losing, right? Okay, self-awareness. The Harvard Business Review pointed out that self-awareness is the most important element of emotional intelligence. It was argued that knowing oneself is the most important competency in leadership. Indeed, it was Socrates who first chided us, man, know thyself.